Lawrence Dunham Vineyards not only grows the varietals that go into their Sky Island wines, they crush, bottle, and host private tastings right on premises.
Crush pad's where most of the action occurs during the year. When the grapes are picked, they go onto the crush pad where they are destemmed, where we take the berries and separate them from the stems. The stems go to the compost, the berries go into the fermentation tanks. Then the berries are brought inside this barrel room where the temperature is controlled, and we bring the temperature of the berries down into the 50s before we begin fermentation. Then the berries go back outside into the fermentation tanks, and we inoculate them with yeast, and then they start the fermentation process. That takes anywhere from 7 to 30 days to complete. Once the grapes have fermented, they're put into barrels or tanks and brought back in here into the temperature controlled room, where they will begin the aging process in barrels. This is a very exciting part of our operation. When we are in here with the barrels, that means that we've made wine, and the barrels are doing their wonder to the wines, and then it's our job to monitor how they're doing throughout the aging period to see if we're getting what we want out of the wines. Also to make sure that there's nothing bad happening to the wines. The enemy of wines is oxygen and bacteria, and so we're constantly monitoring the contents of the barrels to make sure there's nothing bad going on inside of them. So we keep a really hands-on approach to our barrels here. We use several different types of barrels. After the wine's fermented, the winemaker, who's me, makes a decision on what kind of vessels those wines need to be aging in to get the utmost flavors. We use what are called neutral barrels, which are barrels that no longer have any wood flavoring or characteristics to them. We use those for a couple reasons. One, we don't want oak on all our wines, or the wines would taste more like oak than they would like the fruit. We like some of the oak, but not all of the oak. So we use the new barrels to impart the stronger oak flavors, the neutral barrels that give us just the pure fruit coming through, and then we typically will blend those together in ratios that are the most pleasing. Now's about the time we're going to be experimenting with some blends. I will typically put together 15 or 20 blends for my own choices, and I'll pick several that I think are representative of different aspects of the wines. And then we'll present those several alternatives to our tasting panel and see what they think. This is one of our barrels here. This has our 2010 Petite Syrah. And as you can see, it's a nice, fresh, clean barrel. This is the first time it's ever been used, so it would be considered a new oak barrel. Now, if you look here, it tells you about what the barrel's been made of. It's American oak, and it's a medium plus toasting, which means when they coopered the barrel, they toasted the inside of the barrel staves fairly heavily to give quite a toasty flavor to the wines. We also have the same American oak barrel, but it has a different toasting level. This one's a medium toasting level. So these two barrels will taste very, very differently. They may be kept separate or they may be blended at some point in the process. The key is we have different flavors going on in each of these barrels, so we can choose our flavor palettes from those different barrels. We also have, here is a neutral barrel. You can tell by the look of it, it's been through quite a few vintages, and right now it's being used to age Grenache. And the Grenache in this barrel will receive no wood flavorings from the barrel because all the flavor is out of it. This barrel is about 13 years old and is probably reaching the end of its life expectancy, whereas our new oak barrels will probably be around here for a decade or more. Harvest is the most exciting time here at the vineyard. The first thing that happens is we bring the grapes in these white picking bins that do double duty, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But once the grapes come in, we get them chilled down, they go into the destemmer. And this instrument here takes the whole berries off of the stems and discards the stems out one side and puts the berries right back into those bins, because we're going to ferment in those bins. Once the grapes begin to ferment, they form what's called a cap. As the alcohol is created, it creates CO2, which pushes the solids, which is the skins, seeds, and all the pulp to the top of the tank. That's where all the flavor is. So using this hand punch down technique, we resubmerge those solids down into the juice at least 3 times a day. And what that does is it gets that flavor back into the wine, and that goes on the entire length of time the wine's fermenting. Once the fermentation process is complete, we have one more very important step. We let that cap rise one more time in the fermentation bin, and then we go in with a tool to extract the juice from underneath the cap. That wine is segregated into a separate tank, and that's called the free run. What we have left is the remainder of the solids, the seeds, the skin, the pulp, and there's a lot of wine still in that material. We take that material and we bring it into our basket press. This is a hydraulic basket press. It's very gentle on the grapes, and basically what it does is it squishes the remaining juice or wine out of the what we call the must. And that must is squeezed. It's then called the cake after the liquid's been taken out of it. That's composted, and the remaining wine is put into other storage vessels, getting ready for putting into the barrels. This is a very, very important part of our operation. This is the wine lab, and all of our wines are sampled here in the lab, and we get readings on the wines all the way through their aging process and right up to the point where we get them ready for bottling. This is a laboratory. This is called a titrator. And this performs numerous tests that we need to have done on the wines to test the things that are happening within the barrels. All of our wines are tested periodically. This machine does about 15 different tests, and it's very, very important that we have that instant feedback so we know what's going on with the wines. So we are pioneers here. There are no grapes in this area. There have never been grapes grown here before, but we think we've got a great spot. And if all of our study and all of our research and all of our hard work comes together, we think we're going to be producing world-class wines that will be on par with the finest wines in the world with an Arizona spin. And they'll taste like Arizona, they'll represent Arizona, and we're going to sure have fun bringing them to our customers and visitors in the years to come.
Up next, learn more from our other genius in the kitchen today and what was paired with these fabulous dishes.